So this is accompanying an online lesson. The lesson is available at Skinny Double Universe, and there is a guitar version, a bass version, also a ukulele version. In the description, if you're watching on YouTube, in the description below, it will give you a link directly to the Skinny Double Universe text, so that you have the song charts and all that sort of things. And you can also, from there, bounce into the ukulele or guitar version of the lesson. So, jumping straight in, we're going to start with a basic dexterity drill. You've probably seen this one before. Really simple, where we're simply going 1, 2, 3, 4, and next string, same thing, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. The idea behind this, if you're a beginner, the idea is to not worry about going fast. The idea is to make sure that your placement is perfect. So we don't want to be on the fret. We want to be behind the fret. So as I go to the second finger, note that I can let this one up if I need to. If I can't make that stretch, we don't want to be here. It's better to let that finger up and get that where it's supposed to be. Same thing as you go here. A lot of people have trouble and they end up with this sort of thing. We don't want that sort of thing. We want that sort of thing. So if you have to let the finger up to make sure your placement is good, then that's what you want to do. So it's simple. 1, 2, 3, 4 on each string. Now, to double duty, as you're over here on this hand, I don't think the camera's quite picking up that hand. If, for example, you're using a pick, then you can work this with down strokes or up strokes. If you're using your hand and just your fingers, you can use a thumb, for example. Just, plucking with just the thumb. You can use fingers, for example, one finger, or using just the second finger or just the third finger or whatever. Or you can alternate, so you're doing like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, that sort of thing. So the focus needs to first be here to make sure that you're getting those ringing out fine. And then you can worry about all those other things, and you can worry about things like, can I keep my fingers down and get the stretch out of it, and that sort of thing. So go ahead and pause the video if you would, and just take a minute and go through that at your own pace. Make sure all those notes are ringing out just fine, and we'll be right back, right? Pause, and then he's back. All right, see how that works? So what we want to do now is a basic rhythm drill. So the rhythm drill in this, but we've got several rhythm drills that we do at the SDML Academy, which is SDMLguitar.com. That will also be in the description. One of the other things we do is we have various rhythm drills that we do where we're isolating the rhythm so we can really focus in on getting this down. So one of the drills is just to play along. So you can do this any particular way you want. We can tap. You can thump it with your thumb. You can give it this. If you're using a pick, you can do that sort of thing. So it doesn't really matter how physically you're doing it, whatever you're most comfortable with. If you're a beginner, try them all and see what works best for you. Try a pick and try your fingers, try a thumb, try alternating fingers. There is no one best way. There is what is best for you, and a lot of the best is going to be based on whatever it is you need for your stylistic preferences and whatever the technical demands may be for those. So in this particular case, though, I'm just gonna pop out a rhythm, and I want you to repeat back that rhythm and simply play along with me. So, just setting my box up here to make sure we've got a nice tempo set there. All right, so we're just play right along. So if I go, you jump right in. So it's da. Okay, so if you're new to this, we're not worried about the mechanics of how you're making that rhythm, just that you're being able to duplicate that and play along. That's all we're concerned with. If, on the other hand, advanced, advanced beginner, whatever. You want to focus in on your mechanics, on exactly how you're doing that, and those are going to be dictated by the approach you're taking, whether you're using your fingers or a pick or what have you. And it'd be great to do this kind of thing to a drum groove, drum machine or something of that nature, where you've just got a drum groove playing and you're just playing right along. All right, so that's one drill, or one rhythm rather. Now I'm going to switch to a different rhythm. Ready? Just jump right in on that. Now as you're doing this, to add a level of difficulty, you can, like I was doing before, you can speak the rhythms like that, 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 that. If you're familiar with the traditional method of counting, you can certainly add that to it. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. You may already be used to that, but if you're not, that's certainly, for most people, very difficult at first. So try that. There you go. All right, we're going to pause it for just a moment, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So, if you're familiar with scales, we want to take just a moment, and you can pause the video because I'm not going to sit here and play a bunch of scales. But you could, if you want, sit and play, the C major scale or the A minor pentatonic scale, or whatever scales you're used to. And just do that for a couple minutes and then come on back. If you don't know any scales, that's fine. We'll get there. If you do, just play through a couple for just a minute or two is all. But do give a focus to your technique on your fretting hand as well as your picking hand. Again, whether you're using a pick. If you're using a pick, you want to really go through and focus on going through the scales with all downstrokes and then going through the scales with all upstrokes. If you're more advanced, you may already be, I don't need to do that. I got alternate picking. No. Focus on your downstrokes. Focus on your upstrokes. Play them to a metronome. See if you can play them at the same speed. If, let's say, you're playing 80 beats a minute with all downstrokes, for example, then you try it with all upstrokes. You may find that you're just fine with it. You may find, on the other hand, that everything is very sloppy at the same speed, or that you can't get past, say 60 beats a minute. So you want to make sure those ups are moving at the same speed as down. Same thing if you're using your fingers. Let's say you're doing this sort of thing. Make sure you can play it with your second finger as quickly as you can play it with your first finger, and as accurately as you can play it with your first finger. Then you can go back to this sort of thing, and so forth. So, all right, pause it and come right on back. And then we'll jump into the next thing. Pause and back. Here we are. So now on the guitar video, we simply went through a chord drill. In this particular case, we're going to follow the chord sequence that we did in the guitar video, but I just want you to be able to find the notes. Now, again, if you're more advanced, then you may want to find the notes in different places. If we're saying C, you want to find your C's. If you already know how to do that, sort of next level would then be to, say, arpeggiate them. Let's see, if we're on, doing a C major, you want to go through and arpeggiate it, and in different positions. So be sure that you can do that. And if you've got that, then you want to start moving those arpeggios from one position to another in a nice smooth sequence. All right, all the while paying attention to your technique. So, but at the very beginner level, we just want to be able to find those notes. So here we go. Again, I'm going to tap out a little rhythm, and we're going to start with C. And I'm just going to play the root. let's go to A. You could also play that with the open string. Okay, and then G. And if you know another position for that, you can certainly do that. Okay, then E. And the last one's going to be D. Now, on the guitar, we would then go to a D minor, so you can stay on the D as we're thinking D minor. Okay. Then we would go to an A minor. You've already played an A, so it's really just the same. And then we would go to an E minor. Okay, and then we could continue those cycles. The arrangement of that, there is a logic behind that particular order, so we can go over that at a later date. Just want to make sure you can find your notes. But this drill you can do over and over again. It seems very simple if you already know your notes, but when you start adding those levels of difficulty, you'll find that it's not quite as simple. You'll very quickly find your limits of knowledge and your limits of the fretboard if you're trying to keep that going at tempo and you're going from a D major and then suddenly a D minor and all that other wonderful stuff. So, all right, next thing we want to take a quick look at, basic picking pattern. Now, generally, most people are thinking of this primarily as a guitar thing, but it is not. While a lot of the picking patterns get severely shortened when you're looking at bass or ukulele, for that matter, simply because you're looking at 4 strings and 6 strings. They don't necessarily have to be. And even if they are, it's still good to be able to think also in terms of patterns here, not just rhythmic patterns, but in terms of mechanics. What string am I hitting? Am I, do, instead of thinking just like in terms of the pitch values or the rhythm values, you also want to think in terms of mechanically what's happening with strings. Again, this may already be familiar to you, but if not, we'll start with a very simple. We're just going to go string number 1, and 1 in this case is going to be your highest string, the one when you're holding as close as the floor. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're just going to start with a very simple 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I'm not doing anything with the fretting hand here. I'm just going to play those strings open for the moment. Again, you can play that with a pick, with your fingers, however you want to do that. You just want to make sure you're playing that, not jaggedly and changing speeds and whatnot. You want a nice uniform. Playing it with a click, or better, a drum groove. Always better with a drum groove, right? Okay, now let's switch to a 1, 2, 3, 2. And obviously we can add many things on the fretting hand to this, but we just want to have that down rhythmically as well. Okay? So, all of those, of course, if you're unfamiliar with this stuff, go through slowly and do each of the drills. If you're like, oh, I already know this stuff, then do the additional layers of difficulty on top of those. Don't just stop with what I'm playing here. Move to the next level on each one until you run into a wall, and now you know what to work on, right? So work on that a little bit. There's also song charts at the text portion of the lesson. So again, if you go down to the description, click that, head on over, and you've got some songs to toy around with as well. So that's got it. See you guys soon.